You were taught that wealth begins with opportunity, that success is the reward of merit, patience, and moral virtue. You believed that if you worked hard enough, if you kept your intentions pure, the system would notice and elevate you. That illusion has chained generations to invisible desks. The truth is more brutal. Wealth begins the moment you stop waiting to be chosen and start moving as if you were never meant to ask. The world does not reward effort, it rewards architecture. It rewards those who understand how to build perception, to control rhythm, to turn timing into leverage. You live inside a theater built by others. From childhood, you were given a role. The diligent, obedient player who performs honesty and humility while someone else writes the script. Every moral lesson you absorbed, patience, modesty, fairness, was a line designed to keep the story running smoothly. And while you rehearsed your virtue, others rehearsed control. They learned that truth doesn't move markets, narrative does. That value is not discovered, it is declared. That reputation, not goodness, determines the flow of attention. And attention has quietly become the most expensive form of currency in existence. Machiavelli saw this pattern 5 centuries ago. He understood that morality, when detached from power, becomes theatre, a play performed by the powerless to reassure themselves that justice exists. He saw that rulers thrive not because they are loved, but because they manage fear with precision. They create stability not by kindness, but by controlling perception. Modern rulers are no different. They simply swapped thrones for brands, armies for audiences, and swords for algorithms. They do not conquer territory, they conquer interpretation. You call this world unfair because you still expect fairness from systems designed to extract obedience. You imagine the game was meant to be equal when it was never meant to be kind. The system isn't broken, it functions perfectly. It rewards obedience with survival, not freedom. It pays you just enough to keep you calm and ashamed enough to keep you silent. Your exhaustion is someone's dividend. Your confusion is someone's design. To truly get rich from nothing, you must first see the architecture of control. It is psychological, not financial. Every advertisement, every political slogan, every motivational cliché whispers the same command. Obey your hope, work harder, consume more, believe in the process. But hope, detached from strategy, is a leash. It keeps you walking in circles, while others measure the radius of your cage. Machiavelli would tell you that power is not taken by accident, it is taken by awareness. Awareness of human nature, of how people act when afraid, when admired, when desperate for belonging. The poor remain poor because they act as if the world runs on fairness. The rich act as if the world runs on fear, and they're both right, but only one of them profits. Think of the difference. The poor dream of stability, of reaching safety one day. The rich design systems that make others chase safety forever. The poor see money as reward. The rich see it as leverage. The poor believe in equality. The rich believe in hierarchy, not because they crave cruelty, but because they understand that structure is inevitable. Someone always rules the narrative. Someone always defines what virtue means. Those who reject this truth spend their lives moral but invisible. The moment you stop demanding fairness, you begin to glimpse freedom. Because freedom is not equality, it's asymmetry. It's the ability to act while others hesitate, to decide while others doubt, to remain silent while others confess. Silence, in this sense, is not weakness, it is armor. The calm man becomes a mirror in which others reveal themselves, and revelation is power. You may think power corrupts, but Machiavelli would laugh. Power does not corrupt, it exposes. It strips away the illusion of morality and shows what was always there: hunger, fear, vanity, need. To navigate that landscape, you must become fluent in human contradiction. You must see kindness as strategy, apology as manipulation, generosity as investment, not to imitate cynicism, but to understand that goodness without strategy is slavery. Wealth is translation, the conversion of chaos into opportunity. You translate emotion into leverage, attention into influence, doubt into timing. The rich are translators of energy, the poor are consumers of illusion. The powerful do not waste energy proving they deserve success. They behave as if success were already theirs, and the world adjusts its perception accordingly. Look at how every empire begins, not with resources, but with lucidity. Someone, somewhere, sees the emotional blindness of the crowd and builds a structure around it. Religions, nations, corporations, all are architectures of belief. They trade in perception, and perception is endlessly renewable. Machiavelli's princes ruled with armies of perception. Today's elites rule with networks of attention. Whoever directs emotion directs wealth. But here is the quiet law no one speaks. To control perception, you must control your own. You cannot influence others while you remain reactive. The calmest person in a storm becomes its center. That calm is not gifted. It is engineered through detachment from praise, from guilt, from the compulsive need to explain yourself. The more you explain, the more you surrender. The more you seek approval, the more predictable you become. And predictability is the death of influence. Machiavelli warned against transparency. He wrote that a ruler must appear merciful, faithful, humane, religious, and upright, but only appear so. Reality can be adjusted in the shadows. The same rule governs wealth. Appear humble when ambition demands disguise. Appear indifferent when opportunity demands silence. People trust appearances because they fear complexity. Let them. Their simplicity becomes your leverage. The first step to wealth is not acquiring capital, but destroying conditioning. The obedient worker, the selfless believer, the humble dreamer, these are roles assigned to keep you manageable. Every virtue they taught you was calibrated to make you predictable. Predictability makes you safe to control. The moment you realize that, you begin to act differently. You no longer rush to justify your worth. You no longer advertise your integrity. You simply move with intention, and that intention radiates through silence more powerfully than any speech. The second step is observation. Study people not for judgment, but for pattern. Notice what they fear, what they admire, what they pretend not to want, because every society is governed by emotion disguised as reason. If you can read the emotion beneath the argument, you can predict behavior, and prediction is profit. The best investors, leaders, and negotiators are not geniuses. They are psychologists. They trade not in products, but in perception. But awareness alone is not enough. You must learn to act without apology. This is the hardest transition for those raised on moral approval. You were conditioned to feel guilt for ambition, shame for independence, discomfort for success. Guilt keeps you loyal to mediocrity. Shame keeps you working to prove your decency. Both are tools of control. Machiavelli would advise, stop negotiating with guilt. Stop explaining your hunger to those who benefit from your restraint. Every empire begins with defiance, the quiet refusal to obey illusions, the illusion that fairness is virtue, the illusion that honesty guarantees reward, the illusion that suffering purifies. None of these ideas build power. They maintain hierarchy. You were never meant to be poor in money. You were meant to be poor in perspective. The moment you see through that design, you stop waiting for permission to act. True wealth is mental sovereignty. It is the ability to see the emotional landscape clearly and move through it like a strategist. It's when you stop reacting and start designing. You design your schedule, your image, your energy, your alliances. You treat every interaction as an exchange of leverage. You don't chase outcomes, you shape them through precision. This is not arrogance, it's architecture. And yet, even as you rise, the world will test your awareness. It will whisper morality to disarm you, guilt to slow you, empathy to confuse you. Machiavelli warned rulers of this, that the greatest threat to power is nostalgia for innocence. You cannot remain innocent in a world built on manipulation, but you can remain conscious. Consciousness is not cruelty, it's control over your own naivety. The poor call the rich heartless because they mistake calm for coldness. But calm is not apathy. It is mastery of reaction. The rich man feels the same fear, but he delays response until it becomes strategy. The poor react immediately and call it authenticity. That instant reaction is how markets are manipulated, how masses are moved, how power maintains its grip. Delay reaction, and you take control of the tempo. At some point you will notice something strange. As your detachment grows, people begin to project strength onto you. They interpret your silence as depth, your restraint as dominance, your patience as power. And they're right, because perception obeys what it cannot read. The unreadable becomes superior. Mystery becomes gravity, and gravity attracts everything. The world doesn't pay you for how hard you work. It pays you for how hard you are to replace. Replaceability is the hidden poverty of modern life. The system trains you to become efficient but not essential, to become moral but not memorable, to be productive but never powerful, to get rich from nothing. Reverse that logic. Stop being everywhere. Be rare. Concentrate your energy on mastery so deep that your presence bends the environment. Rarity creates reverence. Reverence creates demand. Demand prints money. You may wonder how to start with nothing. The answer is clarity. Clarity about what you can control, perception, positioning, timing, and ruthless indifference to what you cannot. Most people drown trying to swim in waters they could simply redirect. Don't fight tides. Reroute them. Build structures that channel existing flow toward you. That is leverage, invisible, elegant, effective. By now you see why the path of virtue alone never leads to fortune. Virtue without cunning is exploited by those who fake both. The good man serves systems. The lucid man builds them. Machiavelli's brilliance was not in teaching cruelty, but in teaching realism. He showed that humans are predictable in their illusions. They worship what looks stable. They obey what looks confident. They fund what looks inevitable. So appear inevitable. Wealth, in the end, is performance, but not of deceit, of direction. It is choreography of perception. The moment you master that choreography, you stop working inside narratives and start writing them. If you've reached this point, something in you has already begun to shift. A small, silent fracture has appeared in the illusion. The belief that effort is virtue, that decency guarantees safety, that transparency earns reward. You've begun to see what Machiavelli saw, that human beings are not guided by fairness, but by perception, and whoever commands perception commands destiny. The world may call this manipulation. Machiavelli would call it realism. And realism, when applied consciously, becomes liberation. You must now learn the anatomy of movement, how power actually flows through the world, not in straight lines of merit or fairness, but in spirals of perception and exchange. Look closely. Every social structure, governments, corporations, religions, even friendships, runs on emotional economies: admiration, guilt, fear, desire. These are currencies traded daily without awareness. The wealthy and the powerful accumulate them like capital. The poor spend them recklessly, mistaking sincerity for strategy. In Machiavellian terms, the invisible empire is built not on morality, but on mastery of emotion. This does not mean suppressing empathy. It means learning to direct it, feel deeply, but act deliberately. Understand others without becoming them. Compassion without control is consumption. You burn yourself to keep others warm. But compassion with awareness becomes power because it lets you see through people without hating them. You begin to predict their needs, their ambitions, their insecurities. And when you can predict, you can guide. That is the essence of modern wealth, psychological architecture. You are no longer rewarded for strength alone, but for the precision with which you place your energy. Most people disperse themselves in every direction. They post, they explain, they argue, they justify. The powerful conserve motion. They build structures, brands, systems, alliances that act even while they rest. That is how money multiplies, through the replication of intention. Through leverage, not labor. Through silence, not noise. Machiavelli would remind you, a wise man does at once what a fool does at last. In wealth, this means positioning yourself before the crowd notices the opportunity. It means understanding not only what people want, but when they will want it. You are not reacting to the market, you are shaping its rhythm. The rich do not chase trends, they engineer inevitability. They make others believe that the direction they move was always destiny. This is how modern kings are crowned, not by birthright, but by clarity. The ability to act decisively while others hesitate, to hold silence while others explain, to move in shadows while others seek applause. This calm detachment is not arrogance, it's insulation. It's the freedom to operate without the noise of validation. Every great fortune begins when someone learns to become invisible while remaining undeniable. You must now begin your own reconfiguration. Destroy the identity built for your obedience. The system taught you to be transparent because transparency makes you easy to predict. It taught you to share your plans, to prove your worth, to declare your goals. Stop doing that. Let your work speak in absence. Let curiosity become your echo. People should sense your direction, not see it. That mystery is magnetism, that silence is security. Wealth is not about accumulation, it's about conversion. Converting what others waste into what you can use. Converting emotion into movement. Converting attention into advantage. Converting fear into focus. The man who masters conversion never runs out of resources because he can transform anything into leverage. Time, rejection, failure, envy, all can be used if viewed through strategy instead of sentiment. Look at failure through Machiavellian eyes. He would not call it defeat, he would call it exposure. It reveals which illusions you still worship. Did you fail because you were unprepared, or because you were still trying to be loved? Most people confuse rejection with tragedy, when it is often a mirror showing how predictable they've become. Failure is data. Learn from it ruthlessly. Rebuild silently. Move again. To truly get rich from nothing, you must stop believing that morality and success are enemies. They are not. But morality must be chosen, not inherited. When you choose your code instead of obeying one imposed upon you, you turn ethics into strategy. A principled man with strategy is dangerous. A principled man without strategy is prey. The rich understand this paradox. They speak of fairness, but they operate on leverage. They praise transparency, but they rule through mystery. They sell the dream of equality while privately managing hierarchy. This hypocrisy is not cruelty, it's structure. Because if everyone understood the mechanics of power, the system would collapse. The masses are not kept weak through violence anymore, but through narrative. Through the story that effort equals freedom, that humility earns reward, that obedience creates opportunity. Break that story, and you break the spell. Here's the most unsettling truth. Those who appear generous often profit from your admiration. They turn empathy into enterprise. They monetize trust. The savviest philanthropists know that image is currency, that giving publicly multiplies power privately. And those who worship generosity remain poor because they imitate the gesture, not the structure. They give without system, believing virtue guarantees return. But wealth without awareness is just redistribution. So how do you rise in such a world without losing your soul? You do what Machiavelli advised every ruler: learn to act against mercy, against faith, against humanity, when necessity demands it. He did not mean cruelty for its own sake. He meant adaptability, the refusal to let moral panic dictate strategic action. There will be moments when you must appear softer than you are, others when you must appear crueler than you feel. The art is in the balance, appearing virtuous enough to be trusted, yet dangerous enough to be respected. In practical terms, start observing your environment as a chessboard. Every person, every idea, every trend is a potential move. The weak see people as competition. The powerful see them as instruments of amplification. The rich are not isolated. They are orchestrators. They surround themselves not with equals, but with multipliers. Every alliance must have purpose. Every gesture must buy time, access, or influence. Loyalty to the Machiavellian mind is a currency of diminishing return. Use it wisely. And when you face resistance, remember, visibility is not always victory. The modern poor expose everything: their plans, their emotions, their outrage. The rich operate under layers. They make their power look like luck, their advantage look like coincidence. They know that the most effective way to control a system is to appear outside it, to seem like a participant when, in truth, you are the designer. Now, let's bring this back to your own transformation. If you start with nothing, your first resource is perception. Not how others see you, but how you make them feel when they do. Calmness projects competence. Silence projects control. Precision projects inevitability. Start there. Speak less. Execute more. Let your environment become your proof. Every subtle signal you send, in timing, tone, and restraint, trains others to believe in your authority. Then comes leverage. The modern world gives you infinite tools to multiply influence: technology, media, information. But these tools destroy those who seek attention instead of control. Don't chase virality, build gravity. Make people orbit you through value, not noise. Provide clarity in a world addicted to confusion. Sell certainty in an age addicted to outrage. You'll find that when everyone else is shouting, silence becomes seductive. The next pillar is timing. Machiavelli said that fortune favors those prepared for her storm. Timing is not luck, it's rhythm. Learn the rhythm of fear and desire in your environment. When people panic, hold position. When they grow arrogant, prepare entry. You will appear prophetic, but you will simply be disciplined. Fortune rewards precision disguised as patience. Once you've mastered perception, leverage, and timing, wealth becomes inevitable. Because you no longer chase opportunity, you create the conditions where opportunity must come to you. That is the hidden engine behind every empire, not chance, but calibration. The powerful don't need constant motion, they need constant awareness. But remember this warning: as you grow in clarity, guilt will return disguised as conscience. Society will try to pull you back into comfort. Friends will remind you to be humble. Family will tell you to be realistic. They mean well, but they speak the language of containment. Humility without confidence is submission. Realism without vision is paralysis. If you want to rise, you must learn to digest their doubt without absorbing it. At the highest levels, the game changes. Wealth becomes less about acquisition and more about insulation, the distance between your peace and the world's chaos. You will begin to realize that true power is quiet, that those who brag are still convincing themselves, that those who appear untouchable are simply detached from noise. Machiavelli would call this the ruler's composure, the ability to act decisively without emotional display. It's not arrogance, it's preservation. And one day, you will understand the final paradox. Wealth does not make you free. It reveals whether you are already free in mind. If your mind remains reactive, you will still live in chains, only gilded ones. But if your mind becomes strategic, even scarcity becomes sovereignty. Because freedom, at its core, is not ownership, it's control of attention. The poor let their attention be consumed, the rich allocate it like capital. That is the transformation, from worker to designer, from believer to observer, from consumer to creator of systems. Once you see the pattern, you can never unsee it. You stop asking what the rules are. You start writing them. Now look at yourself, not with guilt, but with precision. Which part of you still obeys the illusion? The illusion that effort replaces strategy, that fairness defines destiny, that morality ensures reward, that comfort means safety. Those beliefs are the softest prisons ever built, and they are guarded not by others, but by your own habits of thought. If you break them, you won't just get rich. You'll become something rarer, a sovereign mind in a world of servants. That is the true meaning of Machiavellian wealth: influence, autonomy, control over your own narrative. Because the man who defines his story controls his legacy. So when the world asks you to explain, don't. When it asks you to justify, smile. When it demands your humility, give it your distance. Silence is not absence. It's authority. You no longer need to prove you are destined for more. You only need to act like it, consistently, coldly, quietly. The game is psychological. Those who master their inner state master the outer world. This channel isn't for followers, it's for strategists. You've already begun your transformation. Don't stop now, subscribe, and stay 2 moves ahead of those still playing by old rules. Comment below what part of you still obeys the illusion and which part is ready to rule it. The next video will not teach you how to earn more. It will teach you how to become untouchable.